Bang. All right. We are live. Tweets posted. So then we get the Facebooks out there. Live and live. All right, George. You ready to do this one?
I'm ready.
All righty. Coming down in 3, 2, and 1. And welcome on into the post-game edition of the Blue Horseshoe Podcast. He is George Bremer. I am Ryan Hickey. A bittersweet, a very, very bittersweet post-game pod here is on one hand, George. Look, finally the misery is over. The Colts beat the Titans for the first time in now 6 tries. They beat the Titans at home for the first time in 5 tries. The Colts get a win at home, George, just in general, for the first time in almost a calendar year. A lot of positivity, a lot of reasons to be excited. And so it's a little frustrating, but we have no other choice, George, but to start with, unfortunately, the biggest story of the game. That has nothing to do with the final result. It has everything to do with right now the health of their quarterback and the health of hopefully the franchise star going forward here. That is Anthony Richardson, who left the game in the second quarter with a shoulder injury, did not return. George, you were in the post-game press conferences. Just first of all, any sort of update, any sort of feeling from either Shane Steichen or the locker room on the health and status of Anthony Richardson?
Nothing from the team yet. The only thing that's out there right now, Tom Pelissero from NFL Network is saying that the early diagnosis is that it's an AC joint sprain, which doesn't help a lot. There's still more MRIs that need to be done to see the severity of it. That is an injury that it's an injury that Derek Carr had earlier this year. So if you're looking for a reason to be optimist, there's some there. He was back within a week. But it's an injury with a wide range of recovery times. A lot depends on how much damage there is to ligaments and just what that shoulder looks like on the inside, which is obviously why they're going to do the MRI. Quick research online, during the second half says that it's about a 1 to 6 week recovery time. So again, a wide range of when a guy could come back. You have to believe with him leaving 4 of his first 5 starts, the Colts are going to err on the side of caution here. And they should, because again, the whole goal is to have this guy, for the long term, not just for the season. But I think the frustrating thing is, we've been talking since the draft that really the biggest thing about this season is evaluating number 5, and is he the guy? And you keep seeing flashes. And once again, he's playing really well. At the time that this injury happens, 9 of 12 passing, 98 yards, led a couple scoring drives, and then. You keep seeing these flashes and they keep being cut short by injuries. So not really sure that there was much again on this one that could be done differently. He's just running on a designed run. Defensive lineman tracks him down from the backside and he goes into the turf harder than you would want to see your quarterback, have happen. But that's football play. And unfortunately, we're back again talking about throwing shoulders on quarterbacks, which I'm sure is going to make everybody in this fan base cringe.
Absolutely. No scar tissue there to bring back up or fight through when it comes to quarterback shoulder injuries, without a doubt. I think, let me ask you this, George, because I look at this like from 2 ways. I think both can be true. I could be concerned about right now Anthony Richardson's inability to stay healthy. It's frustrating. It's concerning that, again, 4 of the 5 games he's been unable to finish and or play in. But also I can, while being concerned at the same time, not really fault the Colts or not really have an actual way to change the offense going forward here. I don't really if you look at the way he was injured, bangs his knee in week number 1. He's running the ball. Again, football is a contact sport. He got hurt. There's nothing the Colts, I think, should have done. Maybe, again, him sliding a little bit, but end of the game, try to make a play. Okay. Week 2, bangs his head on the turf after scoring a touchdown. Maybe don't let up, but he gets concussed, bangs his head. Again, a normal football play. And then obviously today he's running, gets tackled, a normal football play where unfortunately just the weight of the defender lands on his shoulder and jams it into the ground. It's concerning, but also, George, at the same time, I just don't know what the Colts can do from this point going forward to prevent him from getting hurt at the rate he's getting hurt now.
The only thing I can think of that's even, could be on the table, and it's going to cost a lot of money, is, take a look at the turf here. The NFLPA put out a study earlier this year. It's been well known that they want natural grass in every stadium. And they put out a study earlier this year, and they said that the type of turf that the Colts have here at Lucas Oil Stadium is, in their mind, and the studies that they do, the worst kind of turf for injuries and those sorts of things. So, can you take a look at that? I don't know. Obviously, it's not coming out of my check. I don't know what the feasibility is of putting grass in here and how much that would cost. I don't know what the feasibility is of changing to a different kind of turf and how much that would cost, or what studies would tell the Colts they should do. But short of something drastic like that, I really don't know what else you can do. Like you said, you've got a guy in Shane Steichen. That's one thing he did say in the post-game press conferences. You've got a guy, with this kind of game-breaking ability that you've got to still let him be him, and while trying to do whatever else you can to obviously try to keep him healthy. And I guess the upside of all of this is, so far, every time Gardner Minshew's been called upon, he's gotten the job done. So I think that's, the bright side is you've got a backup quarterback who's come in now and done his job again and again, and led this team to some pretty big victories.
He absolutely has. And if you are watching right now on YouTube, welcome. Again, George Bremer, Ryan Hickey, if this is the first time you're catching us, this is the Blue Horseshoe Podcast. Appreciate you joining us, and we'll get to a lot of the positives here in a second, I promise. But if you have any ideas, again, on how, if you're the Colts, you can try to help Anthony Richardson's health get in a better spot, please let us know in the comment section. Because, again, George and we're sitting here, and that's the thing, like you mentioned before, about his home run ability. The reason why the Colts drafted Richardson was because he is so explosive, not only in the passing game, but in the running game as well. You could argue, hey, run the ball less, but even you look, George, it was midway through the second quarter, I believe. It was the exact time he got hurt. That was his second carry of the game. It's not like we're talking about a guy who through a quarter and a half had 8 carries, was on track to carry the ball 20, 25 times, and they just were abusing him and or running him into the ground. I think for the most part, George, almost a full game in week number 1, a quarter and a half in week number 2, played a full game last week, and then now obviously a quarter and a half in this game. I don't think the Colts have been reckless in how they've treated Anthony Richardson. To me at least, do not appeal like they're running him in the ground. I think they have been pretty conservative with him, especially running the ball. It's just unfortunate. Again, it's a physical game where injuries do happen. I think a little bit is on Richardson to protect himself. But again, especially in these 3 injuries that he suffered over the first 5 weeks, I can't point to anything truly tangible that I could say, oh, if you fix this going forward, you'll be in a better spot.
No, and that, that's the bottom line, honestly. You get into these situations and football plays happen. Unfortunately, like I said, you got a bruised knee, then you get whatever this is right now. Apparently, at least the early reports are that's an AC joint sprain, and we'll see where it goes from there. One of the other things about this injury, again, quick research, there's a really high risk for re-injury. So the Colts are going to have to take that into account as well, especially if you're not all the way back from it when you return. So, they're going to have to really sit down and determine what they want to do here. How much risk they want to take, because obviously next week is a massive game in Jacksonville, with both teams now sitting atop the division after Houston falls today in Atlanta. So, you got to weigh all those factors, and the fact that it's still going to be week 6, of his rookie season. So you really have to take everything into account here and make the best decision, not just for the football team, but for your 21-year-old quarterback, who again, you're hoping is going to be the face of this franchise for, some time to come.
That's the thing. And you're 100% right. That's the thing the Colts, now that the situation that they're in, they have to deal with. That's the thing going forward here. They have to make sure the next time Anthony Richardson touches the field, he's 100% healthy, right? We mentioned Derek Carr suffered a similar injury to his throwing shoulder. He didn't miss a game. Now, he didn't play very good against the Buccaneers last week, and you could say, was he truly healthy and truly 100% back? He looked a lot better today against the Patriots. So even if that's for Richardson, it means 3 weeks. Like you said, a big one in Jacksonville coming up next weekend. But again, George, you sit him out because right now that game against Jacksonville, and even this season, is not worth Richardson risking either him hurting his shoulder worse and missing maybe the entire year of 2023, or having structural damage that lingers again for past 2023. We've seen that, right, where shoulder injuries linger, carry into years. That's the last thing the Colts can do. So with your research, like I said, pointing out that re-injury is high, the biggest thing right now the Colts owe Richardson is time and making sure the next time he's on the field, 100% healthy. Again, Jaguars next week, right? Massive game on the road. Browns back here, Indiana Knights uniforms in 2 weeks. Then you got the Saints at the Panthers, at the Patriots in Germany before their week comes. The bye week comes in week 11. If you are Shane Steichen and it takes a few weeks where we're sitting here and the next time he's not on the field is until week 12 against the Buccaneers, and that's 6 weeks, fine. Like whatever it takes. At this point, I don't think there's the timetable that's too long because you owe it to him, you owe it to the fans, you owe it to the franchise to, again, make sure the next time he's out there, he is not putting himself at risk of being hurt where now the 2023 season is just totally shot and he's out for the year.
That's the thing. I think right now you got to look at the long term a lot more. You could argue they made this mistake with Andrew Luck. When he first injured that shoulder, he tried to play through it throughout that 2016 season or 2015 season, and he made it worse. I think everybody understands that now that, it became a much bigger problem than it maybe was going to be to begin with. So you don't really want to go down that road again, obviously. And, you can make the argument that there doesn't need to be a tremendous amount of urgency. Minshew, again, is playing well. He's making plays when he has to. He's keeping this team, keeping the chains moving. But the run game right now is spectacular. When you see the day that Zach Moss had with 165 yards and 2 touchdowns, the fact that Jonathan Taylor is back and a part of this team and extremely happy and seems to be very excited about where he's going to be at next week, obviously on a pitch count this week and probably going to be for, I would imagine, most of this month as you try to ramp him back up. But you've got a dynamic run game back there that you can lean on. Josh Downs had a really good game today as he continues to just climb every week. Michael Pittman continues to make big plays. There's not a real sense of urgency. And I think, it goes back to what we've been talking about really since week 1 and the job that Shane Steichen has done here, to go out there again, lose your quarterback in the second quarter. You're running with a backup running back and end 3 or 4 streaks here, the home losing streak, the losing streak straight up against Tennessee, the losing streak at home against Tennessee, all snapped in what was a tight physical football game. And also, we were talking about all those guys on offense. Credit to the defense, that 4th and 1 stop, maybe the biggest play of the game. DeForest Buckner just bursting through there, grabbing a hold of Derrick Henry's leg, and Zaire Franklin coming through and finishing off that play. That's how the front has played all year long. They're playing as one, as Shane Steichen said. Look, DeAndre Hopkins got free. He had I got to check his numbers real quick here. 8 catches for 140 yards. The secondary is still having its learning. It's hard knocks. It's still
growing
coming
pains.
along. Growing pains. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you. That's still part of something they factored in. I think that's something they were talking about in the preseason. You got a young secondary, you got to live with that. The front is playing so well that they've been able to survive that. And I think, and then you have Julian Blackmon with the interception to clinch it. So defense is playing at a really high level. The run game is playing at a really high level, which also the offensive line is playing at a really high level. There's no reason to rush your quarterback back. I mean, beyond the fact that his health and his future is paramount here, you've got other areas of the skin that are playing well that says, hey, you know what? Let him get healthy and keep trying to win games while you have, because Shane Steichen right now is really convinced this team, no excuses, just go out there and get the job done.
You just outlined basically every reason why, like you said, there's no reason to rush Anthony Richardson back. And again, why this win was so impressive for the Colts, because let's now get into the positives, George. Like you said, this was the return of Jonathan Taylor. Vibes were high going into this game. We joked, unfortunately, with the Richardson injury, the vibes were alive and well for about a quarter and a half before that Richardson injury put a cloud over this game. But to the Colts' credit, they didn't go in the tank. And they played smash mouth football. So many times, George, and especially in this 5-game losing streak, a lot of the times the Colts lost this game was flat out they were bullied. They were bullied by that front, by the Titans on both sides, offensive line and defensive line. Those were basically that was the foundation for Tennessee's 5-game winning streak here and how they beat the Colts during that win streak. And today, for the first time in a long time, you saw the Colts just say, you know what? We're done. Punch Tennessee in the mouth. That led to Zach Moss's, 165 yards on the ground? 165 yards on the ground on 23 carries. 7.2 yards per carry. 5.7 yards per carry for the Colts on the ground as a team. They just completely especially on the interior of the offensive line. I thought the broadcast pointed out multiple times, and they were 100% correct. Quentin Nelson, Ryan Kelly, Will Fries in the interior of that offensive line flat out moved everyone on Tennessee's front back, and they just bullied Tennessee and won that game in the trenches for the first time in a long time, George. That was incredible. Incredible to watch, and a big hat tip to them. Again, when your quarterback goes out, they said, you know what? No problem. We got this. And they just went out and won the game.
And Ryan Kelly said it back in the spring that Tony Sperano Jr. came in and gave this offensive line confidence again. He said that was the thing that had changed, that they felt confident again. You see it on the field. While we're talking about backups, and guys coming in and doing their job, Blake Freeland is the left tackle today. You're playing with a rookie left tackle making a second career start against the defense with a 2.9 yards per carry average allowed coming in. I know Tierre Tart was out for them. I know that they probably, could have used him, obviously, but the Colts weren't completely healthy either. They're playing with their backup quarterback, for the last 2.5 quarters of the game. None of it matters. That to me is the biggest statement that Shane Steichen has made so far through 5 weeks as a head coach. That it doesn't matter what they face, what comes in, what comes out, who's playing, who's hurt. They just keep coming at you. Somebody asked me on Nashville radio earlier this week when we were doing a preview, what would I say is the best thing about this team? It's just the determination. They don't quit. And that's what you saw again today. They fall behind 13-10 right at the start of the second half. Really easy drive for the Titans right down the field. The air came out of this stadium. You could feel, and they just answer with a long scoring drive of their own, get the lead back, and then go on to win the game. And that mentality comes from their head coach. And I think Shane Steichen right now, I've been joking, about MVP awards and things like that. I think Shane Steichen right now legitimately through 5 weeks is the coach of the year in the NFL.
Because to your point, too, like you look at what Tennessee's doing, what Houston is doing inside the division, it's impressive, right? Arizona is a scrappy team. Like there have been a lot of surprise teams and I think just flat out good coaching jobs this year. But to your point, not any of those coaches we've talked to on these teams that have been impressive so far this season are doing so primarily with a backup quarterback, with a backup running back, like I said, with backup offensive lineman as well. Like this coach team is nowhere near, having the injury luck they've had in the past. And they are still, like you said, finding ways to win and still getting the most out of these backups, putting them in positions to succeed. Where in years past, we saw even like 1 or 2 offensive linemen go down. Like the Colts are not winning a lot of games, even with their starters and everyone healthy. Now, all of a sudden, like you said, you're seeing depletion at some of the most important positions. And again, no disrespect to Zach Moss, but part of the reason Zach Moss was thrown in the trade for Nyheim Hines in Buffalo last year was just kind of a throwaway. He was not doing the job that Buffalo wanted. He was supposed to be that bruising back, and he was, I don't know off the top of the head, but it felt like he was running right into the line of scrimmage and falling down anytime the Bills tried to get him going. And now you see in Indy, a little bit last year, now this year, George, he is running hard. He is finding holes. He's making now explosive plays. Like we talk about Jonathan Taylor being the home run hitter, and here's Zach Moss saying, whoa, I got some explosion myself here. That was what? I think officially it was a 56-yard touchdown run just right through the middle, untouched. It's not just right now the offensive line plowing through the holes, and they're doing a great job, and they deserve a lot of credit. It's also Zach Moss as well, running hard, finding the holes, making the most of it. You said last week we did our post-game pod, even though it was a loss, if you felt Shane Steichen was a real one, right? Like a legitimate head coach, like what he's doing is not fool's gold. I think we'd also say the same thing, George, now through 6 games with Tony Sperano Jr. The Colts and Chris Ballard banked on it being coaching last year, not talent, through 6 games. And today especially, you saw he was right about that.
Absolutely. He's come in, and like I said, Ryan Kelly gives him all the credit in the world for giving this team more confidence up front. This looks like, I don't know if you go all the way back to the vintage. I don't know what time you want to consider that. The second half of 2018, all of the 2019 season, whenever you want to consider that this offensive line was at its absolute best, they're getting into that neighborhood again. And they had what? Did they get to 200? 193, 7 yards shy of 200 yards rushing today. That's a heck of a day. As you said, 5.7 yards on average, against what was coming in the number 1 run defense in the NFL. So to me, Tony Sperano Jr. deserves just a world of credit for what he's done and what he's been able to do up front. The offensive line in general deserves a ton of credit for being able to come out here and shake off a bad year and have the performance they've had. But I think it all comes back to the head coach. I think Shane Steichen has come in and set a standard, and they aren't suggestions from him; they're demands. When he comes in and he says, "This is who we're going to be," it's not who we want to be for the way he's speaking. It's who we're going to be. That's the way he speaks to the team, and I think they're responding to that.
It's like there's no other option. It's like, it's not like, well, again, this is another reason today you can look at it and say Richardson goes out again. It's a close game. You right down the field, by the way, after the air gets let out of the balloon. Okay, you go to halftime, you're still winning 10-6. You, by the way, which we'll get into here in a second, you have an opportunity to score at least 3 points and take a touchdown lead into halftime. You get no points. Tennessee has momentum going to halftime. They come right out, punch in the mouth, drive right down the field, take the lead, and it felt like, George, here we go again. Here, this is it. Like, it was a nice little first half. They put up a fight, and now all of a sudden Tennessee is going to just kind of go back to what they've been doing. A lot of these losses for the Colts have been too in the second half. Tennessee kind of taking control of the game. To the Colts' credit, again, with a backup quarterback, a backup running back, backup offensive lineman, and at least a left tackle and Blake Fulham, right down the field, score touchdown again. It's like Shane Steichen. There are plenty of reasons for the Colts to be like, you know what? We played hard. We tried. If we had this, like, you could play the if game and little woe is me, and maybe next year or next time if we're healthier, maybe we can win. He's saying there's no going back. Like, we're here. There's no other options. We are here to win this game. And like you said, that's, I think, a reason why now it's like, and also, I hate to say it, frankly, now the team's a little bit used to it as well. Like, Richardson goes down. It's not like it's a total shock. They're used to now playing with backups on the field. But like you said, the expectation doesn't change. And it's like you never see this team at any point get low. Like the air has never been let out of the balloon. They truly do believe in the next man up mindset. And they truly do believe whoever is out there at any position, it doesn't matter if, backup quarterback, backup running back, we know we're going to get it done because we expect to get it done. The standard is high. And to the Colts' credit, when they need Zach Moss to run out the clock, he does it. Gardner Minshew on the final drive, George, to ice the game when they need him to make, for the most part, ice the game, when they need him to make a few clutch third down conversions to extend that drive and eat more clock, what does he do? Converts it. Takes a big hit, makes the throw. This team, unlike last year, is coming up insanely clutch, and they've done and been clutch with all different contributors every week.
And that's it. You go back to the screen pass that Zach Moss takes on third down to keep that drive alive initially. They could have been giving it right back almost right away, but Moss is able to make a play. Gardner later on converts the third down. Like you said, takes a huge hit, puts the ball right on the money, and keeps the chains moving. And then the defense with their fourth down stop before that. And right down to Julian Blackman intercepting the ball and just taking away the last chance. That's the plays that they did not make, the last few years. When you're in this 5-game losing streak and when you're struggling the way that they were, in years past, those are the plays that they were not making. And you're absolutely right. At the end of the first half, you have a wide open Kylan Granson. There's a chance here to go up 17-6. And the ball is not well thrown. He doesn't pull it in. You don't end up with any points. And Tennessee comes out, starts second half, punches you right in the mouth, goes right down the field, takes the lead. In years past, that would have just been the end. There would have been a lot of talk after the game about, well, make that play at the end of the half. Maybe things are different. Not this mindset with this group. And I don't know if it's because they've been through so much from literally day one. I mean, you had the JT contracts, saga starting on day one of training camp. I don't know if it's just that they've already seen so much that nothing affects them, but so far they just keep fighting, and that's the best thing about this football team, and it's what gives you hope next week. If you're trying to find reason to be optimistic, they have so far had a chance to win all 5 games. They're 3-2 overall, and if nothing else, they're going to go down there and give Jacksonville their best shot. And
they're 3-0 with Gardner Minshew starting and/or playing a majority of the game. And so I know when he came in against Houston, like it was already 14-0. And, again, that seemed like a runaway early. But when he has been called upon to play legitimate minutes in these games, they are 3-0. So, again, there's a belief there with Gardner Minshew. You mentioned the 4th and 1 play right before half. I want to get your thoughts on 2 things. Number one, the overall decision, 4th and 1, no timeouts left. It was, I believe, 15 seconds on the clock. You're at the 4-yard line of Tennessee. Would you have taken the field goal there? Or do you like Shane Steichen and the Colts going for it?
I mean, I would have kicked the field goal because of the no timeouts, but they obviously did the right made the right play. I mean, the play call was perfect. They were going to score a touchdown if you just execute on that. So that's why Shane Steichen's on the sideline making millions of dollars, and why I'm just doing podcasts and second guessing him all the time.
I am with you. I just thought the no timeouts made it to the where I just would have kicked the field goal, because you can't really QB sneak, because by the time you get off the pile, you're basically rushing the spike and then you're kicking a field goal anyway. And you're basically have to go for the end zone. So I just would have, said there's just a lot going on here with no timeouts. I would have kicked the field goal. Now, to your point, it was the perfect play call. They had the Titans fooled for the most part. Is it a bad pass on Gardner Minshew or a great play by Tennessee? Because I'll be honest, I thought it was just a great play by Tennessee, where they were in Gardner's face, rushed. He obviously rushed the throw. I'll give Tennessee's defense there for getting the pressure on Minshew versus him just short-arming it.
Yeah, I mean, they made it happen. There's no question, and you give them credit for that. Got out there, they were out of position, they were about to give up 7 points, and they found a way to make a play, which is what Tennessee's always done under Mike Vrabel as well. So, sometimes the other guys just make a good play too, and that's that's life in the NFL. So, whether it could there be more on it, I don't know. I might be spoiled by AR and all of his 1 foot throws, and you got to realize that humans don't always make that play. But at the end of the day, it's not what you remember most about this game, because you look up once the clock hits triple zeros, and the Colts have more points than the Titans did, so you don't really worry anymore about that. And it would have been, I feel like last year, the year before that would be all we were talking about on this pod.
We've seen so many times, right? One mistake, whether it's a penalty, whether it's a missed opportunity like that, hurt this team and they're unable to overcome it. Now it's just like, okay, like another bump in the road, no problem. We're just going to keep on going. And like I said, that's, I think, a big, big credit to Shane Steichen and his mindset for this team. Now you look, George, on the offense, on the Titans end, right? We talked about going to this game from the Colts defensively. Hey, if you can get Tennessee one-dimensional, that's really where you can have your defense flourish and put them in a position to succeed. The Colts, to their credit, were two-dimensional, right? They passed efficiently when they had to, and obviously the run game was outstanding. You look on the opposite end, the Colts shut down Derrick Henry for the first time in a long time. 13 carries for Derrick Henry, 43 yards, just 3.3 yards per carry. They rushed as a team for 89 yards, 4 yards a carry. Colts did a really good job shutting down Tennessee's run game for a while. Look, Ryan Tannehill was very good, 23 of 34, 264. No touchdown passes. Did have that one pick at the end to seal the deal there. And obviously, you mentioned before, DeAndre Hopkins, just to reiterate, 8 catches for 140 yards. Look, obviously, the secondary we'll talk about here in a second. But overall, especially the front seven, the Colts did a tremendous job, I thought, on Sunday. The big reason why they won the game was the fact that they really made Tennessee one-dimensional and did not allow the run game to get any sort of momentum here in this game at all.
And situational football. I think that's the thing about this defense. Much like we're talking about the team on the whole, that they will come out and shake off, whatever's happened and move on to the next play and just keep fighting. I think Tennessee came out 4 for 4 on third down on that opening drive. They come down, they score right away and take a 7-0 lead. I think they were 4-4 on third down. They were 1 for 8 the rest of the way. Finished 5 of 12 on third down. That's a major factor in this game. Getting off the field, down in the red zone, forcing field goals instead of letting them score touchdowns. Right after they took the lead on, in the third quarter again, when they get the lead back 17-13, Tennessee goes right back down the field. The defense stiffens up, forces a field goal in the red zone. Again, another turning point in this game. The fourth down stop, obviously, we've been talking about a couple times. That's what this defense has done. I think you got to give them credit for. They're going to give up yards, but those situational things, third down in the red zone, they won in those situations at the end of the day, and that's why they're looking at their first win in 6 tries against Tennessee.
I mean, you talk about it, they allowed 1 touchdown. The Colts defense did, and that was on the first drive of the second half. They did a tremendous job of, again, when things got tight, they buckled down. They were truly they were truly lived at the definition of bend but don't break. And again, especially that front seven deserves a lot of credit, because even though the secondary was getting torched, especially torched by DeAndre Hopkins, and it felt like how many third down conversions did he get? Made some tough catches, some big plays in the passing game. His first game he had with the Titans going over 100 yards. The Colts defense did a great job, all 3 levels, to their credit, of when things got tight, you get inside the 20, they stopped the run, which again now made the Titans more one-dimensional in the red zone and did not allow anyone to get open or run free. And when they had third downs, they got the stops and again forced 3 instead of 7. You hold them to was that quick math there? 3 field goals. 3 field goals and you win the game. Like, that is a big reason why they're able to win this game, is making Tennessee one-dimensional. And to the secondary's credit, even though, again, it was a rough game for them, especially trying to slow down DeAndre Hopkins, when things got tight in the red zone, they made the plays.
And to that point, DeAndre Hopkins did not score a touchdown. As good as Ryan Tannehill was today, he didn't throw a touchdown pass. Again, they won when it mattered. And I think you're going to look at the stats and you're going to say, this could have been better here, that could have been better there. I think defense is going to be that way all year. But if they continue to make the big plays when they have to make them, just like the offense is doing, that's how you become a scrappy team. That's how you become a tough out. That's how you get to 3-2, just scratch and claw your way here. And so I think one of the other things, that's been interesting to watch over the course of this first 5 weeks, all the credit that Shane Steichen deserves, and his staff. We were questioning the depth of this team. Everybody was coming through training camp. What are they deep enough? This area, that area. They've been tested almost everywhere across the field. You have guys today, Grant Stewart coming in, making plays with Shaq Leonard out. There are guys all over the field stepping up, making plays. So I think some credit needs to go to Chris Ballard here too, in the roster they put together, because we were all talking about how weak it was, and at the end of the day, maybe they're just a little deeper than we thought.
That defense that allowed 1 Tennessee touchdown on the day after they scored 27 against Cincinnati last week, and got big stops when they needed, including a 4th and 1 on Derrick Henry to really, again, change momentum, flip the game here. You talk about that defense, right? They're missing a key contributor at each level of the field, right? No Kwity Paye in the defensive line, big loss there. No Shaq Leonard, big loss in the middle of the field. And Dallas Flowers, unfortunately, being out with that Achilles now for the year as well. A major contributor so far for this team at each of the 3 levels of defense. And it didn't matter. It didn't matter. They made, again, the clutch plays, including George, again, that 4th down and 1 at, what was it? Off the top of my head, like 6 or 7 yard line it was for the Colts to flip the game. Again, how many times have we seen Derrick Henry get that handoff, burst through the line, and not only get the first down, probably run into the end zone and score a touchdown? DeForest Buckner did a great job causing havoc, and Zaire Franklin. I don't know what nickname you want to give him. If you want to call him the vacuum, like we can sit here for hours and think of different nicknames to call him, stick him, because it feels like he just sticks to every single person with the ball and is all over it. He made a big play, and again, 2 guys coming up clutch against the guy that notoriously now for 3 years in a row has killed this team. They were truly able to flip the switch today. It's so good to see, George.
It was at the 5 yard line. I just looked it up.
5 yard line. Thank you. So
down at the 5 yard line. And yeah, I think that was the moment that you really started to believe, hey, this could happen today, because of what you said. So many times in the past, Derrick Henry bursts through that line on 4th and 1, gets 5 yards, goes to the end zone, puts them back in front. That's been the history of this rivalry the last basically 3 years. And now they're able to make a play. I'll go with the cleaner for Zaire Franklin. Cleans everything up. I think that's
the cleaner.
He just goes in there and fixes it all and ends things. But that drive, to that play, to me, is the epitome of what this front seven's done. It's not about one guy. It's about them playing together as a unit. DeForest Buckner gets in there. He blows the play up to begin with. He makes the initial hit. Zaire Franklin comes in and makes sure that there's no second effort, that he's going down right there, and that the play is going to end. And that's – I don't think they were getting that last year. I'm not really sure the last time you saw the Colts defense do that, in that kind of a situation, step up and make, as a unit, make plays like that. So, again, give credit to Shane Steichen, give credit to Gus Bradley, give credit to that entire coaching staff, and give credit to Chris Ballard and his scouts, because they have found a lot of guys that maybe aren't household names, whether it's Zach Moss, whether it's Grant Stewart, who are coming in and making plays in this game to help the Colts get the victory.
And it's, like I say, it's not only the fact that they got the stop, right? Because they got the stop at their own 5 yard line, but then also, too, you still have 8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. So me and you were joking, like, oh, that's a great stop, but watch, like, the Colts go 3 and out, and all of a sudden, they're the Titans right there at the 50 yard line, driving right back in with a chance to take the lead. And now you have less time on the clock to, come back. To the Colts offense's credit, right? They then, when again, in a situation you're backed up on your own end with a backup quarterback, with Zach Moss being the primary guy, and not even though Jonathan Taylor was playing, he finished the game with, 4 carries and 1 catch. I'll get the exact numbers here in a second. But you go on a 14-play, 84-yard drive that chews up 7 minutes and 3 seconds of the clock, and you make 3 different third down conversions, one being a 3rd and 12, which again, great job by Alec Pierce for drawing the defensive flag and allowing that, again, the drive to continue. We talk about like different guys stepping up. Minshew made some big throws. Zach Moss ran the ball well. Michael Pittman Jr. had a clutch reception as well. It's on the defensive end, right? You highlighted the 2 guys in Buckner and Franklin. They made the big play there to stop Derrick Henry on 4th and 1. And then on the other end, you get contributions from offensively. All 11 guys, I think, on that drive had at least one key aspect of a play to step up here and, again, all but ice the game. And then Julian Blackmon comes in and puts off the finishing touches. It's just I feel like, George, we've said this now easily the 3rd time because for all 3 wins, a true team win. Like, this is not a game where we look at, they were saved by Zach Moss or they were saved by Gardner Minshew. They played well, but this was truly a team effort where you look at the Texans win, they were rolling. The Ravens win, especially, that was a true team effort. You needed multiple stops and multiple big plays from guys all over the field. And now again today, in this win over the Titans, there was legitimately, 46 guys right are active on game day. I could point to at least 40 guys, I think off the top of my head, and say they all had a legitimate contribution and made at least one big play that led to this win. Again, I think it's not an understatement whatsoever to highlight the team aspect of this and how important it was for them to get the win.
Yeah, it's early in the year, and we'll see how things finish out. But through 5 weeks, that's been this team's MO. Everybody matters. Everybody is expected to come in and do their job, and everybody steps up in big moments and makes plays and helps this team win. Jonathan Taylor's number 6 carries for 18 yards, 1 catch for 16 yards. I think for him, it was just being back out here, just being a part of this that really had him so excited after the game. He was talking about he wants to kind of copy Zach Moss's spin move, and he's very excited about where this team is going, much like most other people around the team right now. But to go back to that Alec Pierce, the penalty, that to me is a perfect example of what we were talking about before, of how things have changed from years past. Right before that, the Colts get a big play to Josh Downs. They're in Titans territory. It's like, okay, they've got a first down. They can run some more clock. They get a penalty. It's pass interference on Michael Pittman. He's adamant it didn't happen. I didn't see a replay, so I don't know what happened.
I did, George. It was the right call. He started blocking before the pass was even thrown.
I've yet to find a player who actually believed they committed a penalty, so that part of it wasn't surprising. But you're backed up. You've had a mistake again that you shot yourself in the foot, and now you've got 3rd and long. And you just go back to the last time they played Tennessee. You had, or last year's game, I think it was the last time they played Tennessee, down there in Tennessee. Oh, yeah. You make a mistake like that, and you fumble on the next play, and they return it, and it turns the game around. And this time, or I think it was more of a missed face mask in that situation. The Colts were still kind of arguing about it, that there should have been a flag, and there wasn't. And the next play, you either a pick six or a fumble, either way, a turnover.
But you're right. They were still caught up in the last play, and that bled into that game-changing play.
And this time, just as crushing a blow. It's late in the game. You're trying to run out the clock, and you're on the other side of the field now. And now, instead of a first down in Tennessee territory, you've got 3rd and long in your own territory, and you come back, and Alec Pierce runs a great route, and they get called for a penalty, and you get it right back, and you're able to keep moving forward. That to me, again, that sequence is just, it's exhibit A of how things have changed for this franchise.
That penalty, right, came with 4 minutes and 35 seconds left on the clock at your own 35. So you're right. Like, that's one where if you don't convert that, all of a sudden you're punting it back. Tennessee has plenty of time. Touchdown, takes the lead. And it's one of those where, like I said, they bowed up and they came through and made a big time play here to keep the clock going. Zach Moss was running like a man possessed. It just could not be stopped. And also, too, you mentioned before, right, that penalty by Pittman Jr. wiped out a big-time conversion by Josh Downs on 3rd down. George, we talked about how much we loved the draft pick when it was made by the Colts initially right on draft night. And now you're seeing, we heard, the connection he had with Anthony Richardson. He's out there, right, at the hotel before the first day of practice with AR, getting reps in. And you see Josh Downs and how much fun he is with his electricity and his footwork and his route running and his speed. And you really see it all come to fruition today, especially finishes the game with 6 catches for 97 yards, 38-yard reception early in the game is a big explosive play. That's a guy, George, from week number 1 to week number 5, off the top of my head at least, it feels like each game he continues to get better, and his right now progression is only in a linear way going up.
Yeah, he's just been climbing every week, and that's something that you want to see from these rookies. Uh, he's clearly at least the number 2 option. Today was the number 1 option for this team, and I think that's one of the things that they're going to pride themselves on. Whether it's Zach Moss carrying the load on the ground game, or I'm sure in future weeks that'll be Jonathan Taylor. Whether it's Michael Pittman, whether it's Josh Downs, I'm sure one of these weeks it's going to be Alec Pierce. You're going to get Jelani Woods back eventually. He's going to factor into all this. They don't seem to care, who gets the credit or who gets the targets or who's, putting up big numbers on a given day. They're fighters. And again, it has to go back to Shane Steichen because that's the biggest change they made. And you just see they come out every week and every down and they fight to the whistle, through the whistle. And, the results, sometimes they go their way, sometimes they don't. But I don't think you felt at any point this year walking away from a game and thought they just weren't ready. They just didn't give it their all today.
You're 100% right. And you look to, again, that's a large part of this team being prepared. I think also, too, a lot of it is they are prepared. Like, there's not a lot of uncertainty. There's not a lot of scrambling around of what do we do here? I'm not ready for this. They truly feel like every situation that's thrown in front of them, they're ready to handle and have an answer for and know what to do. It's been really fun to watch. And again, a large part of that has to, give credit to Gardner Minshew here. 11 of 14 comes in again, ready to play, 155 yards, makes no mistakes whatsoever, does not get sacked, puts the ball, throws some really good passes, puts the ball where these guys could catch it, but also makes the right decisions as well. Doesn't put the ball in harm's way. He's been tremendous. And I think, again, George deserves a lot of credit for coming on in and keeping this offense rolling yet again.
It's huge. I mean, they brought him in here for this exact reason. I'm sure they did not want to see him this often. They did not intend to use him this much. But every time he's been called upon, he's gone in there and he's done his job. And that's, I don't know what more you can ask for from a backup quarterback, honestly. To come out here every single time the Anthony Richardson either had to leave a game or couldn't start the game and just do his job and keep the belief in this team. And you can see it. The players out there believe in him. They believe he can get the job done, and they believe they can win with him. And why wouldn't they? Because they've done it 3 times now.
Last thing I want to get to, George, before we do give out our game balls here for the Week 5 victory, you saw, too, a progression and a build from last week when in the explosive play category. You had 4 plays over 20 yards in this game, obviously highlighted by Zach Moss's 56-yard run. But Josh Downs had a big play for 38 yards. Michael Pittman Jr. had a long catch for 27. Zach Moss took a screen, 26 yards. You are now starting to see as well. Not only is this team being able to churn yards out and get first downs, but also they're starting to become more explosive and now starting, especially leaning on that ground game, starting to open up the defense and really start to eat up big chunks of these plays.
And I think some of that was game plan today. I mean, we talked with Blaine Bishop, during the week, and he said the one thing that this team has done, Tennessee has done consistently, give up these big explosive plays. That's what's hurt them in the games that they lost. And I'm sure Shane saw that and wanted to take advantage of that. But it goes back to what we've been talking about since week 1, that run game, when they run the ball effectively. And today they ran it extremely effectively. Defenses have no choice. They cannot play a shell. They've got to come up. They've got to try to stop that run. And that's going to open up things downfield. You saw it today, perfectly illustrated. They had explosive plays in the run game. They had explosive plays in the pass game. I'm sure at the end of the day, they'd like to put up more than 23 points. I'm sure those 3 field goal drives, there's things they'd like to have back. But that's when you can walk away from a win with your backup quarterback and a backup left tackle and a backup running back and say you left points on the field. You're probably feeling pretty good about the future.
You're absolutely right, especially after a division win too, and against a team that kicked your ass the last 5 times. That's one where, George, we're talking about 1 of 5 in the red zone, leaving points on the board with backups, 3 backups on the offense. We're probably talking about a loss. Just if we say that, hey, if we said after the game, look, you 1 of 5 in the red zone, like I said, kick too many field goals, backup quarterback is in against a team that you've lost 5 in a row to, we're probably talking about 6 losses in a row. You're right. It's a great thing that we could talk about this team winning a game against their arch nemesis, again, against a team that's owned them the last 3+ years, and we're still talking about these corrections coming after a win. It just gets you excited for the future. How can it not? Because they're still winning games in 3-2, yet there's still so much room for improvement. Of this ceiling can really be raised so much higher than we're seeing right now. It is really encouraging and really exciting now going forward, not just in 2023. But in years, going forward as well, that this team's just going to continue to climb. And then you could see a day, hopefully sooner rather than later, but there's definitely a chance this team can compete with the upper echelon of the AFC here, hopefully sooner rather than later. All right, this is going to be a tough question, George. Probably the toughest thing we've talked about today. Game ball. A lot of different contributors. Who is getting the George Bremer Week 5 game ball?
I'm going to go with the easy one this time. I'm going to go with Zach Moss. 165 yards. The big 56-yard touchdown run, I think, just set the tone for the day. He came out. It was the first of the big explosive plays. I think it told Tennessee that the Colts were here to fight this time. It wasn't going to be like the other 5 times that they played. It was going to be a new team they were facing today. And so my game ball goes to Zach Moss.
I will stick in it with a similar theme. I'm going to do 3, or I'm going to give one game ball split it 3 ways. I'll go Quentin Nelson, Ryan Kelly, Will Fries. The interior of that offensive line, I get for the first time in a long time, especially Jeffrey Simmons bearing down their necks, was able to clear the way for Zach Moss and co to run for 193 yards as a team, 5.7 yards per carry against a team. What's the number, George? Is 2.9 coming in for Tennessee?
Yeah, 2.9.
2.9 yards per carry. Tennessee was averaging so far through the first 4 weeks of the season, number 1 in the NFL. They're able to more than double that this game. It was the first time in 20 games the Titans allowed a 100-yard rusher. Congratulations to you, Zach Moss. But a large part of that was the fact of the interior offensive line moving bodies, asserting their will, and flipping the script of, unlike what we saw the last 5 times these two teams have played, the Colts were the ones bullying Tennessee, pushing them around and being the more physical team. Also to watch, George, really relieving to see, frankly, and it was nice to see those roles reversed, and hopefully that does continue here when they go back down to Tennessee in a few weeks to send the message now again for the second time this season. But like I said, it started with the run game. Zach Moss was outstanding, and that interior of the offensive line as well was a big reason why we're sitting here talking about a 3-2 team after a Week 5 win over the Titans.
Yep. No, they're getting back to that phrase on your hat. I mean, that's what it looked like today. The older, the 2018, 2019, 2020 version of these Colts, where the run game really set the tone for everything, and they did everything off of that. That's the way it looked again on Sunday. It hadn't looked that way against Tennessee in a long while. I think the Colts will take this one, and now, can you get your quarterback healthy, and can you build off this again next week down in Jacksonville?
Big one in Jacksonville in week number 6, that's for sure. All right, to recap so far, because I know a lot of people coming in, coming out of the stream. To recap here, summarize week 5, George. Anthony Richardson obviously is the big storyline, him getting hurt for now the 4th time in 5 games, being unable to finish a game. Absolutely concerning. We're both in agreement, at least from a play calling and game planning perspective. We're not really sure, George, what the Colts can do differently, because it's frank. I hate to say this because it feels like a cop-out. Sort of freak injuries, just kind of football plays that happen. You suggested the turf, like changing out from turf and going to grass as a way to maybe limit some of these injuries. Otherwise, George, there's really nothing play calling wise or game planning wise the Colts can do to keep their young quarterback safe right now.
Yeah, I don't know what else they can honestly do. You're not going to not run him. And like you said earlier in the pod, it's not like they've been overusing that. The run that he was hurt on today was the 2nd carry. So it wasn't like he carried the ball 10 times in the first half and this happened, just situation where he got tackled from behind and a defensive lineman's weight fell on him. And we'll see how bad that damage in the shoulder is. But again, as we said early on, take as much time as he needs. That should be the number one thing here. You've got a backup who can go in there and inspire this team. They believe in him. They believe he can win with him. Do not rush back your young quarterback. Make sure that he is healthy and he's ready to go when he gets back on the field. Because, it's important to find out what you've got there. I think the flashes that we've seen have been highly encouraging. Again, he's playing really well today, 9-12 for 98 yards when he goes down. But make sure that he's all the way back. There's zero reason to rush this.
By the way, that pass he threw to Josh Downs, the 38-yarder, total dime. Dropping it right over, I think it was a linebacker or a defensive back, just putting it in the only spot where you could fit it to get Josh Downs that play down the field. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So like I said, we hopefully want to see and we'll see more of that this season. But like you said, do not rush him back. Now, the Colts have not confirmed this, but at least Tom Pelissero of NFL Network is reporting that it's a sprained AC joint in the right shoulder for Anthony Richardson. Why that is significant or why that's important is because we saw Derek Carr, the Saints, suffer that same exact injury to his throwing shoulder. He didn't miss a game. Now, again, it's not like he looked sharp and was very good a week later when the Saints played the Buccaneers. But the good news is at least that was an injury that's thought to be, in George, you looked it up. It's about a what? You said 1 to 8, 1 to 6 week injury?
1 to 6 weeks. 1 to 6 weeks. Yep. That's
1 to
what
6
they're saying
weeks.
right now.
So obviously each person is different in terms of how they recover. But Derek Carr at least did not miss a game, and he looked a lot better, at least the second week of him playing today against the Patriots than he did last week. But either way, he did not miss a game. So hopefully we hope Richardson's return is sooner rather than later. But as you said, caution absolutely has to be used here. Number one, first and foremost, keep Richardson healthy. Obviously, Zach Moss, insane game. He comes back, looks really well. Jonathan Taylor gets a strong ovation, which he absolutely should. Shows a little bit of flash. Nothing crazy here, but again, good to get his feet wet. I think it was 7 total touches. Look at us. We put the over-under at 7.5. So right on the number. Vegas always knows in terms of the amount of times Jonathan Taylor was on the field and getting the ball in his hand. Defense steps up. Again, clutch. Just clutch plays. Front seven did a good job making Tennessee one-dimensional and shutting down the run. And now we're talking about, George, again, a team that faces adversity, does not flinch at the moment whatsoever. They're 3-2 in all 5 games. Going down to Jacksonville next week with a chance to go to 4-2 and hopefully at least split this season against the Jaguars. And honestly, with the way they've played so far, George, if Richardson can play, I'm not saying I'm going to pick the Colts to win next week, but it's not like there's no chance. Like you would think most times on the road with a backup quarterback, there's no chance. Don't feel that way whatsoever. Credit to Minshew, but also credit finally this team. And that was kind of, again, a theme of this game. Whoever's in, doesn't matter, next man up, they come through and they play well.
All I know is Halloween's coming early now next week because going down to the House of Horrors, the nightmare situation for this team. But hey, they broke 3 long streaks here today. We'll see if they can go break probably the most infamous streak they have next week in Jacksonville.
The good news is, especially since they won 2 games in England the last two weeks, I don't expect any clown masks in the Jacksonville Stadium this upcoming week. So at least that's. Could be the House of Horrors still, but at least we won't be horrified looking at fans in clown masks throughout the rest of the game. That's for sure. So if this is your first time checking us out, Blue Horseshoe Pod, welcome. He's George Bremer. I'm Ryan Hickey. We are here 3 times a week, Tuesday, Thursday, then after the game, right here on YouTube after every single game. So make sure you subscribe to the Blue Horseshoe Podcast on YouTube. We could find the exclusive post-game show. Also, if you like pods listening more than watching, please subscribe to our podcast, the Blue Horseshoe Pod, wherever you do get your podcasts. We will be back on Tuesday, obviously, right, with some sort of update on Anthony Richardson, and we'll see. Hopefully we can get an official word from the Colts on the official diagnosis, and if there's any sort of time frame on when they could expect Anthony Richardson back in the lineup and continue to get you set for a big Week 6 divisional matchup against the Jags. Appreciate you tuning in. Victory cones for everyone here after the Colts go to 3-2 win a big division game, snap the Titans streak, snap the home losing streak to the Titans, and snap the Lucas Oil streak as well. It was a streak snapping Sunday, George. A great one, again, outside of one small injury to the quarterback. But we will be back on Tuesday. Appreciate you tuning in. Have a great rest of your Sunday. We'll talk to you Tuesday right here on the Blue Horseshoe Pod.